Okay then guys, what is going on? Cloud Players here and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today we're inside of Hogwarts Legacy with a whole new region that you're able to look around with some really interesting areas like this one right here. There is an entire place that you guys are going to be able to get into, which will show that there has been a lot of stuff actually cut out of this game that we may have had access to right at the beginning, or we're going to have access to later on in the future, as you can see here on screen. It's really interesting. So today we're going to show you guys exactly how to get there and show you guys around a little bit at some of the places that you can visit while you're in this new region. Now with that being said, if you haven't already, smash that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe with post notifications turned on. It'd be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, let's dive on in to the secret region inside of Hogwarts Legacy. So we are going to want to be able to visit this top right area of the map just here. As you can see, this is completely blanked out. Although we may have seen this throughout story missions previously, this may have been somewhere we were able to access before. But we're going to be getting into there today, and we're going to be going to Falbarton Castle to be able to get there. And it's actually really easy to get into, and this is a really surprising way of being able to break through a barrier. Essentially, you want to follow the route that we're taking right now. We're going to go over the main bridge and make our way to the corner of this ruin right here. Once you do, there will be a little bit of a fizzle trying to get over towards this wall, but you can essentially just glide your way into the corner and get over the wall peak. Once you get over it, go directly down, and that's it. You've broken the barrier. At this point, it is a little bit of a wriggle around to make your way out, and you obviously will see a lot of sort of graphical glips and stuff, and it will look extremely odd, but once you manage to make your way through, it is a lot easier to see. Now, as you can see, there is a lot of bright areas, but we have now made our way off onto an inaccessible part of the map. So make sure that you are a little bit wary if you've got any sort of medical conditions due to the lighting and stuff like that. Maybe avoid this, because there can be points where it's a little bit flashy, to say the least. But you can see here it's trying to load it up, and it doesn't actually load up until you manage to get to a certain point. Now for me, when I started trying to make my way directly through, I did come into a little bit of a predicament as we kind of hit a wall straight off of the bat. Inside of this area that you can't access certain parts while mounted, and you can't access certain parts as an overall. So there is kind of like a lot more of a barricaded area inside of this area, and you will find that throughout this quite a bit. But you essentially want to make your way over towards the lake on the left hand side, and this is going to be where you can really start flying around and exploring the area for what it really is. We did really try to sort of glip through this little bit where it says that you can't go while mounted, as I didn't particularly want the video to be an hour long while we tried to run through everywhere. But as you can see, it just changes. Everything becomes really difficult to see sometimes, and it just kind of looks like everything changes as far as weather orientation and stuff like that. If you do balance yourself going up and down, you will kind of sort of set the area back to its normal degree. So make sure that you just have a play around with the camera angles, and for the record, you will be able to see it later on in the video, but you can actually fly through the water. As you can see right here, you can actually fly through the water, which was a really weird feeling, to say the least. But to get rid of this sort of white glip, the higher up you go at a certain angle, it will slowly start to disappear. But what you will find over this area is a giant ruin. Now this ruin looks to be something which would have been explorable had this area have been unlocked. We've seen a lot of style ruins like this before, where we'd find a lot of chests, a lot of money bags and stuff like that. Maybe even some enemies that would have spawned here, but unfortunately we don't seem to have that same venture throughout this area. Although you can dismount here, it's one of the only areas in this area of the map that you can dismount. Once you do manage to hop off, you can have a little venture around, and even though you can see in the distance a nice little flame which looks like a area with a bridge some sort, this seems to be a area that we may have visited previously where we actually did the quest around the dragon. This does seem to be relatively similar, although you can't get close enough to really tell. But inside of that mission, it is pretty much a close off. You can't check your map throughout that, and you can't actually venture back to that area. So that would say to me that it's likely to be in this area right here, and they just utilized a small part of what we saw beforehand, and they didn't want to use the entire area as they had cut it out, but what they did want to utilize was something just for a part of the mission. So maybe that's just how that one worked. But it's extremely interesting seeing how all of this is laid out. When we actually go into the ruin itself though, you will see that even inside the ruin, they kind of started it and then just stopped. So you can see where they kind of kick booted this idea of this region right here in the corner, it kind of goes under stairs and then there's just like no floor. It just really makes no sense at all. I feel like they should have just expanded this out, but we may be seeing this throughout a future DLC, maybe at a later date. Maybe we'll find this area a little bit more accessible and be able to sort of like venture around and find a load of loot and stuff like that. But that's not really the interesting part for me. There was an area that we managed to stumble across, which I haven't seen online yet, which was extremely odd to say the least. Now, I could have had it completely wrong and it may have just been like a Merlin trial or something like that. But if you venture into this area right here from where we've just flown from, we are going to go from the main ruins and we're going to make our way round. We just kind of started to try and look for any little nooks and crannies that may have been of an interesting stature, and then we really wanted to fly back through the water. So what we want to do is make our way up to the peak of the top corner. It's the darker shaded area. This now makes no sense to me, but I really wanted to fly underneath the water and see if we could find like any octopuses or anything swimming around. Unfortunately, there was absolutely nothing there whatsoever, so we just kind of took an L on that one and continued to venture around. But like we said, we're going to try and venture up to the top corner of the dark patch inside of the map and see what it is that we can find there. It started to look a little bit more weird as the trees and everything started to change. The aesthetics of the area started to change. We had a lot chunkier trees with bigger roots, and it just kind of looked like we were back in the woodland. And then we found areas like this, which would have looked like they would have been areas for like caves and dungeons and stuff like that we would have been able to venture before. But as you can see, we're getting closer to that darker area at the top. And I always wondered what it was that could be up there, so we thought we'd have a quick gander. And for me, like I stated beforehand, this could have just been a Merlin trial, but it may not have been at the same time. It was a really weird placement. It did seem a little bit of a weird place to be able to put something like a Merlin trial. I know that they were pretty much placed everywhere, but for me, this had a really sort of like specific feature with it being at the peak of this area. So if we make our way around the mountain, because we cannot fly all the way up there, and we kind of venture around this area, we saw that there were a lot more like cove areas where they could have been for sort of dungeons and areas for treasure chests and stuff like that. But again, all of this is just completely unutilized. For me, it's a massive waste. I feel like this is a great area to explore, and considering how quickly, I guess, how quickly it took to complete the game and finish the exploration on it, the game is now kind of sat quite stagnant for a lot of day one players. So this would have been a really nice area just to have kind of maybe put in after the first month or so. They've definitely built up the whole thing. Maybe if they had just like finished it and then drip dried it, drip flowed it in. But this area right here does look a lot like a Merlin trial, although we do have this one pillar in the middle which looks extremely odd. It looks really interesting, and it does also look a bit like a battle arena at the same time, although we don't have the main statue that stands in the middle. This is something for me which is really weird, and I don't actually know what it is. Maybe I've just been out of the game for too many weeks now that I've just kind of forgotten what certain things look like. So if I'm being stupid, let me know down in the comment section. I've not played this now for a couple of weeks, and I'm not really 100% on what this could possibly be, but it does look like there could have been like an orb structure to put inside of it or something along those lines, maybe a battle arena or something like that. But this area is really cool, and you guys can go and venture it for yourself. I did kind of like exhaust this area, so I couldn't really find anything other than what we have found. But if you do manage to find anything, please let me know via socials down in the comment section below in the description. Thank you so much again for watching, guys. I appreciate all your faces. If you haven't already, make sure you're smashing that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe, post notifications turned on. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the clouds.